Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Don't stand up so early. Sit down. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is from Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 4. And we're very fortunate to have Her Grace Vrndavanaesvari Radhika, Devi Dasi, ISKCON, Philadelphia, to give the class. Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, please accept mine. All glories to Prabhupada. Good morning, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giravardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giravardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giravardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astatari Sat to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astatari Sat to His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Jai.
Jai.
Dakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shiva Sati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Girdhar Govardhan Ki Jai.
Jai.
Mayapurdam Ki Jai.
Jai.
Vrndavanaesvari Ki Jai.
Jai.
Yamuna Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ganga Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai.
Jai.
ISKCON Harrisburg Ki Jai.
Jai.
Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. Hari Hari
Oh,
Bol.
bless
Nama Om
you,
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinivadi Pashita Desha Tarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritha Naram Chaiva Narottama Devam Sarasvatim Vyasam Chatutaya Madiraya Naschapaya Surabhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 2. And this chapter is entitled The First Stages of, that's Nectar of Devotion. This chapter is entitled The Lord in the Heart. So I'll read the Sanskrit and then 3 times, then we can repeat together. Satyam Kshito Kim Kashopa Prayasher Bahao Shvastidhi Uparbarbane Kim Satyanjalu Kim Purudana Patria Digva Kaladao Sati Kim Dukule Satyam Kshito Kim Kashipo Prayasher Bahu Vishwayidehi Alpura Hanam kim Sati Anjalu kim Purudana Patria Digva Kala Dao Sati kim Dukule Satyam Shitao kim Kashapo Prayasher Bahas Vasidehi Uparbane Banhanike kim Satya Anjalo kim Purudana Patria Digval Kaila Dao Sati kim Dukule.
Satyam Shishakim Kashipu Prayase Bahau Swaside Hilpapa Hanakim Satyanjalo Kim Urudana Patria Iqbal Kalado Satikim Dukule.
Hare Krishna. Someone else?
Satyam Shitaukim Kashipo Prayasair Bahas Vasidhe Yupa Parhanekim Satyanjalaukim Purudhana Patriya Digvil Kalado Satikim Dukulai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Someone else?
Hare Krishna. Satyam Krito Kim Kashipo Prayasor Baho Swasiddhe Upabarhanai Kim Satyanjalo Kim Purudhanya Patra Digval Kalado Sati Kim Dukulaihi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else want to try? No? Okay. So we'll do word for word. Satyam, being in possession. Shattao, earthly flats. Kim, where it is necessity. Where is the necessity? Kashipoha, of bed and cots. Prayasheha, endeavoring for. Bahau, the arms. Svasiddhe, being self-sufficient. He, certainly. Upabarhaneha, bed and bedstead. Kim, what is the use? Sati, being present. Anjalo, the palms of the hands. Kim, what is the use? Puruda, varieties of. Ana, eatables. Patria, by the utensils. Dik, open space. Valkala, ado, skins of trees. Sati, being existent. Kim, what is the use of? Dukuleha, clothes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there are ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? Purport. The necessities of life for the protection and comfort of the body must not be unnecessarily increased. Human energy is spoiled in a vain search after such illusory happiness. If one is able to lie down on the floor, then why should one endeavor to get a good bedstead or soft cushion to lie on? If one can rest without any pillow and make use of soft arms endowed by nature, there is no necessity of searching after a pillow. If we make a study of the general life of the animals, we can see that they have no intelligence for building big houses, furniture, and other household paraphernalia, and yet they maintain a healthy life by laying down in the open land. They do not know how to cook or prepare foodstuff, yet they still live healthy lives more easily than the human being. This does not mean that the human civilization should revert to animal life, or that the human being should live naked in the jungles without any culture, education, and sense of morality. An intelligent human cannot live the life of an animal. Rather, man should try to utilize his intelligence in arts and science, poetry, and philosophy. In such a way, he can further the progressive march of human civilization. But here, the idea given by Srila Sukadeva Goswami is that the reserve energy of human life, which is far superior to that of animals, should simply be utilized for self-realization. Advancement of human civilization must be toward the goal of establishing our lost relationship with God, which is not possible in any form of life other than the human. One must realize the nullity of the material phenomenon, considering it a passing phantasmagoria, and must endeavor to make a solution to the miseries of life. Self-complacence with a polished type of animal civilization geared to sense gratification is delusion, and such a civilization is not worthy of the name. In pursuit of such false activities, a human being is in the clutches of Maya or illusion. Great sages and saints in the day of yore were not living in palatial buildings furnished with good furniture and so-called amenities of life. They used to live in huts and groves and sit on the flat ground, and yet they have left immense treasures of high knowledge with all perfection. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatan Goswami were high-ranking ministers of state, but they were able to leave behind the immense writings on transcendental knowledge while residing only for one night underneath one tree. They did not live even 2 nights under the same tree, what to speak of well-furnished rooms with modern amenities. And still they were able to give us most important literatures of self-realization. The so-called comforts of life are not actually helpful for progressive civilization. Rather, they are detrimental to such progressive life. In the system of Sanatan Dharma, of the 4 divisions of social life and 4 orders of progressive realization, there are ample opportunities and sufficient directions for a happy termination of the progressive life. And the sincere followers are advised therein to accept a voluntary life of renunciation in order to achieve the desired goal of life. If one is not accustomed to abiding by the life of renunciation and self-abnegation from the beginning, one should try to get into the habit at a later stage of life as recommended by Srila Shukadeva Goswami, and that will help one to achieve the desired success. Om Jnana Tamaranjasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshar Unmilitam Yena Tashme Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadis Vadvadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Chara Swaminati Namane Snigdha Chaita Surpaneda Bhagmanam Drasa Plutam Prabhupada Gata Pranayam Bhakti Chara Padam. So I'll read the translation again. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hand, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there's ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? So in this chapter, it's the Lord in the heart. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami is instructing the endeavors of the way to live as a devotee, as a follower of the Lord. And so in this particular verse, this theme that comes out is simplicity. It's really not over endeavoring for material activities, for material possessions. And this is something that's a common theme. And Prabhupada had the mantra simple thinking, high living, or simple thinking, simple living, high thinking. Sorry, now I'm getting it right. Simple living, high thinking. And that simple living, high thinking is really keeping things simple, keeping things at, what are our necessities, and not endeavoring too much beyond that. And in Sri Ishupanishad, which is one of the key texts in our tradition, in the Sri Ishupanishad, in the first mantra, and this is a very short, Sri Ishupanishad is actually very short. There's only 13 mantras, or I'm sorry, 18 mantras. And so this is, but the Sri Ishupanishad is very instructive to us. And in the Sri Ishupanishad, in the very first mantra, it's the translation is everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore only accept those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So in this concept of recognizing that the Supreme Lord is is the controller of all. He's the Lord of all material activities, the Lord of all spiritual activities. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead lords over everything. Everything is his. And so when we are actually taking possession of things, we're actually taking possession of something that's the Lord's. So we can't really do that because it's someone else's. So the Lord is portioning out. He's giving us the opportunity to take care of ourselves and portioning out things for our benefit, for us to maintain our bodies, to maintain our families if we're in the Grihastha ashram, and keep a roof over our head. So this, what Srila Shukadeva Goswami is really trying to illuminate here is that sometimes, even in that time, you have this class of people that are overly endeavoring to have more wealth, more jewels, more pieces of land, a bigger kingdom. In today's modern world, we're endeavoring for bigger homes, a nicer car, a high-end school, more money. And so all of these things, while some of it may be beneficial for the maintenance of our life, maybe it's preparing for retirement, and that's reasonable, right? So we have to think about the future, and Krishna gives us tools to be able to make sure that we retire, and there's things available in the material world that we can utilize for our benefit and for our security as we grow old. But the idea of over endeavoring is really the key concept here, is to not take more than we really need, and to keep life simple, because really the energy that it requires to endeavor toward more and more and more is taking that energy away from our Krishna consciousness, is taking that energy away from endeavoring toward cultivating a relationship with Krishna. And this we know to be the ultimate goal, is really to endeavor in that relationship. And so when we think about spiritual life and the stages of spiritual life, we have the Sambandha, Gyan, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. And I'm sure you've heard these terms a lot, but this is really looking at the ultimate goal. The spiritual advancement comes from these concepts of the Sambandha Gyan, which is really working and understanding that our relationship should be with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Abhidaya is acting according to that. So this is the action. So the Sambandha Gyan is the relationship. That is understanding what our relationship is and understanding our role. The Abhidaya is referring to acting according to that. And the Prayojana is the achievement of that ultimate goal, which is developing love of Godhead. And so the Prayojana is really because we understand, we know the relationship, we have the activities acting in that constitution according to that relationship, and then we reach that goal of the Prayojana, the ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is to develop love of God. And if we take everything we take away from that energy of acting in according to our constitutional relationship, and we take that energy and we apply it toward acquiring, then all that we're doing is we're decreasing our spiritual intelligence. And that is not going to get us to the Prayojana. It's not going to get us to that ultimate goal of developing love of God. And this is a really important concept to remember. Not everyone, so this is the constitutional position of every living entity, is to have this relationship with Krishna, but not everyone realizes that. Not everyone has uncovered that understanding. So you see people out there that are just mindlessly acquiring and really seeking the bigger, the better. You have these concepts of manifestation, and I see it all over, and it's considered spirituality, but it's really not. It's still on the material platform, because in this concept of manifestation, what are they manifesting? Their goals in the concept of manifestation is to try and manifest more material gain. They're trying to manifest more happiness. Well, what is happiness for most people? Happiness is usually like comfort, material comforts. They're manifesting a car, they're manifesting whatever that is. And when you talk to people in this that follow this kind of path, I don't want to call it a spiritual path, because like I said, it's really a material path. Although it gets dumped into the bucket of spirituality, it's really not, because they're constantly endeavoring toward accumulating some sort of material happiness or material satisfaction. And we know that is not the ultimate goal in life. That's going to take us away from our relationship with Krishna. So in this path of Krishna consciousness, the ultimate aim is to develop our consciousness in the relationship and in the direction of Krishna. And so it's really, it sounds very simple, but it can be very complicated, because as we're coming into this path, and maybe some of you have been on this path your whole life, some of you may have only just in the recent time endeavored into this understanding of Krishna consciousness. Maybe there's something in between for some of you. Some of you may have come from traditional Hindu paths, which weren't getting deep into the monotheistic tradition of Krishna consciousness. And so we may be at different stages of awareness or understanding, and we may be at different stages of really realizing that goal. And so when we have a goal of having a relationship with Krishna, and that goal is very clear, then things will tend to line up in our lives accordingly. Krishna, it says that Krishna, we take one step toward Krishna, he takes 1,000 steps for us. So Krishna helps lay the path for those who make the endeavor. And in this particular verse today, Prabhupada is really, making the point, and, Srila Shukadev Goswami is also making the point that it's, the endeavor is really about understanding our lost relationship with God. And this is really critical. And the human form of life, and Prabhupada emphasizes this in so many of his writings, that the human form of 8,400,000 different species of life, the human form of life is the one form of life that actually is afforded that opportunity, which is a very great gift, because humans are, in the scheme of the earth, in the minority. Think about that. How many other species are out there, and even just down to bacteria and amoebas, that humans are in such a minority, even though we are up to 7.5 billion in population. That's nothing compared to all of the other life forms here on the planet. So we are very much in this we're in an elevated position. We're in the minority. So to be in this position as a human is very rare. And Prabhupada emphasizes that it's such a rare form of life that we get to take this opportunity, and we should use it to our benefit. We should use it to the benefit of not manipulating material energies to get as much as we can out of them. And that's what we see humans do time and time and time again. We see humans trying to manipulate the material energies to try and gain power, gain wealth, gain land, which is both. And so this is the example that we're often seeing in today's world. However, in this human form of life, the true endeavor is endeavoring toward uncovering our lost relationship with Krishna. And Prabhupada says here that in pursuit these activities, this, the self-complacence with a polished type of animal civilization geared to sense gratification is delusion. And such a civilization is not worthy of the name civilized, right? Because he says in pursuit of false activities, a human being is in the clutches of Maya, or illusion. So we're really in the clutches of Maya, where Maya's, pulling us in the direction away from Krishna, because she sees our intention. If Maya sees that we're interested in material energies, Maya is going to take us in that direction. If Maya sees that our intention and our goal is to cultivate a relationship with Krishna, she's going to help facilitate that as well. And so the purpose is not to, as we're coming into this path, and like I said, we may be at different stages coming into this path with different goals and understandings, but when we start reading some of these texts, the goal is not to just throw out everything we own, or, move out of our home and live in the streets in a cardboard box, or live in the forest and live off the land. That's not the aim here. The aim, and Prabhupada says that the goal is not to get rid of everything and renounce, because there's a term for that, Palgu Vairagya. And Palgu Vairagya is really false renunciation. It's taking this concept and saying, okay, I'm going to just renounce everything in the way of thinking I'm renouncing for the Lord. But that's not how it works. It's false, because it's the mindset of, okay, I'm going to get rid of everything and simplify, may seemingly align with Shastra. The internal goal, the culture is not matured. And so when we have an immature internal environment, an immature relationship that hasn't quite fructified and developed within us, then we're doing all these things and we're falsely renouncing, and this can be very problematic. And we see this. We might even see this today. People that we know that may take that path, and then it trips them up, and they might have difficulties. So we have to be very careful when we're studying verses like this, that we take this to heart, to say, okay, simplify. How can I simplify my life? What does that look like for me? And it can be as simple as something as basic as, well, maybe, I do need to get some clothing, but I'm only just going to replace 1 or 2 items. Maybe I need to, I need to get a new car, but maybe I'm going to just get a modest car. And there's no judgment. If someone's driving a BMW, that's fine. There's no judgment on that. But these are just some considerations one could look at. And so this is the concept of simplification, that in the material energies, there's so many temptations, there's so many opportunities to acquire, there's so many opportunities to try and that mess with our mind. They get us thinking, oh, I have to do this or keep up with the Joneses. And we can get pulled back and forth, almost like a mental ping pong, right? Where are we sitting? Are we here? Are we here? Are we here? Are we here? I want this. This is very attractive to me because my material hankerings are still there. But I know that that's not really on the path of simplification. So I sit over here. So then there's, like I said, there's this kind of this mental wrangling that happens, and it can be difficult to work through. So in those instances, we can pray to Krishna. We can talk to a loved one to help sort these things out in our own hearts and our own minds. Maybe we compromise with ourselves and do something in the middle, whatever that particular situation is, and to help our egos still feel satisfied, because the egos are still working through, our false egos are still working through wrapping our heads around everything in this text, because we have so many layers of material conditioning, and all of us do, right? We're all here in this material energies for a reason, because we still have a lot of material conditioning, and that's normal. It's perfectly normal to have material conditioning. So all of these things that are brought to our attention through Srimad Bhagavatam, through Sri Ishopanishad, through Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita, these are all there for us for our internal consideration. They're there for us to internally examine ourselves and say, okay, I know I'm here, but I want to make a couple steps in progress toward Krishna. So what are some things that I can do today, tomorrow, next week, in the next year that are going to help me do that? And so when we talk about the prayojana, the goal, the ultimate goal of life, the ultimate goal in life for every living entity is to cultivate a relationship with the Supreme. And because not every living entity has that realization, they are still spinning out in the material energies. But once we know that, we can't unknow it. Whether or not we can deeply internalize it is another situation. But we can't unknow that this is the ultimate aim in life. So that's everyone that's here. We know this. We know that's the ultimate aim in life. It's just then a matter of the internal culture cultivating that internally, and that just takes practice. That just takes awareness and a desire, and really looking at our goals in life and looking at the long-term picture to say, okay, well, I may be this newer realization, and I was on a trajectory, and we see this a lot. We see people coming to a deeper understanding of Krishna consciousness, or that God is the ultimate goal. Simplicity is really a good process, that maybe we're endeavoring towards something different. And then they realize, oh, wow, maybe the things I was endeavoring toward aren't truly satisfying for me. And maybe there's something else another direction I can take my life. So then we start slowly. And the more that when we make that realization for our own lives, Krishna will help us. And that's the beautiful thing. It's not overnight. Krishna will help us. He'll help us slowly begin to cultivate that internal desire. And that's really what it is. It has to be an internal desire, not just an intellectual understanding. And once that flame, we all have that spark. We often hear this spark of energy, this spark of love of God, this spark is of Krishna, that connection. But the spark, how do we turn that into an inferno, a desire, a deep, deep desire for Krishna? We got to fan the flames. We got to fan the spark, blow, give it a little bit of air, give it a little bit of encouragement. And we do that by being around other people that have maybe a slightly bigger flame that they're fanning. And we do that through our chanting, through studying, and also just looking and in our lives in a very kind but objective way to see how we can make better improvements toward that. So again, like I said, Prabhupada says here, this verse is, the goal is not to tell all of us that we have to sell our houses, sell our cars, and go live naked in the woods, right? That's just not pragmatic. That's just, it's just not going to work. And if everyone did that, the woods would be pretty overcrowded. There wouldn't be, it'd be tough. So we have to be really pragmatic about that. So we have to think about how we can take our existing trajectory in life and dovetail it. And it doesn't mean we have to completely just flip the boat, or clear the checkerboard and start over again. We're going to just like, I'm done. I'm clearing the board. I'm going to hit the reset button. Some people can do that and can be very successful with that, but it's not an easy thing to do, is to kind of just clear everything and start from scratch. Sometimes we're in the lives we're in, and we have to really move forward in Krishna consciousness in a gradual process. And I was saying to my husband yesterday that, we all are on these different paths. We are all on such very different paths that we're walking down, and we have such different backgrounds. So it's understandable that we all have our different struggles as we're moving through Krishna consciousness, and one person's struggle may be very, very different from another person's struggle as they're working through this. And one person may be very easily able to, live in the temple and just eat very simply and, get up for Mangala Arti every day and go down and worship the deities. And that might be very easy for one person. And another person might be thinking, gosh, I'm still in my, house, and I have family, and I have all these responsibilities, and this job that's corporate and, feels very, very non-godlike to me. How could I possibly get any closer in my Krishna consciousness? And the thing that we have to remember is that we have to maintain ourselves. And if we do everything in our lives remembering Krishna, then that's a good start. So Krishna has given you where you're at. Krishna has provided that for you thus far. So the first thing I think is to have gratitude to Krishna, to say thank you for providing me with everything that I currently have. And thank you for helping me realize that this isn't all there is to life. And now I'm going to do the best I can with what you've given me. And I'm going to continue to remember you. And I'm going to remember that all of the results of my life, everything in my life that I do, I can only endeavor, but the results are up to you. And when we think about our lives every single day that we make the endeavor, Krishna determines the results, the outcomes. And when we are in that mindset throughout our day, then going to work and doing whatever we're doing at work, if we do our best in our work, Krishna is responsible for the results. We come home, we think of Krishna, we chant, we read scripture, we talk to our families, we have Krishna conscious discussions. And even when we're talking to people in a non-Krishna fashion, that we're being kind, we're listening to them, we're hearing their life in a non-judgmental fashion. And, and we're continuing to think about Krishna and thinking about every spirit soul that's in front of us, and that they too are here trying to figure things out. And so this is a really, it's like I said, it's seemingly simple living, high thinking, but it's not always so easy when we're completely immersed in these material energies. Now, the one thing that Krishna gives us in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 6, he does give Arjuna, as Arjuna is asking these questions and Krishna is talking about the kind of in chapter 6, he's talking about the perfect yogi, and the perfect yogi is steady in determination. They fix their mind, they internally, and they're unwavering. And so these are all of the things they sleep on. So don't eat too much or eat too little. They don't sleep too much, sleep too little. They're very controlled. They're very simple, regulated, but Arjuna's hearing all of this, and Arjuna's thinking, well, gosh, this is very impractical. He says the system of yoga, which you've summarized, appears very impractical and unendurable for me. And the mind's very restless and unsteady. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. This is Arjuna saying this. And said, oh, Krishna, and to subdue it, I think is more difficult than controlling the wind. So here we have, and Krishna's agreeing. Krishna agrees. He says, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it's undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. So here Krishna is giving some instruction to say one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. So whose mind's very hectic and uncontrolled, but one whose mind's controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. And then Arjuna's like still not convinced, right? Arjuna, because he knows this is not an easy path. And even what's being described today in the Bhagavatam, it's not an easy path forward. So Arjuna's still not convinced. And he says, but Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist, who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization, but with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection? And so here it's, Krishna is saying, O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a ribbon cloud with no position in any sphere? This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. So Arjuna's sharing these doubts. Why is Arjuna sharing these doubts? These are for us. These are for us too, right? Because these are the same things that we endeavor and we experience in our lives. And so if Arjuna is pointing these things out, they must be pretty present in today's world in Kali Yuga, especially if we're endeavoring in this path of Krishna consciousness. And Arjuna has said this already, like, hey, this is, for someone who's fallen away from spiritual life and struggling in material activities, what happens to them? What happens to someone that's completely just unsuccessful and just goes straight off to the material world again? And these are the pulls that we experience in day-to-day life. But Krishna reassures Arjuna by saying, O son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. So Krishna's assuring Arjuna that not to worry. There is no loss or diminution. He says this Krishna says this in another verse in the Bhagavad Gita. There is no loss or diminution. So we are making these endeavors in Krishna consciousness, and we just continue to work toward that within the context of our own personal lives and our own personal experience and our own karma. And this is where it's really a personal experience. Bhakti is a personal yoga. It's a personal relationship with Krishna, which means that each and every one of us has a personal relationship with Krishna that no one else could ever possibly be privy to. So that being said, we are each on our own individual path and we each have our own individual goals. So it's really critical that if we are struggling with something or we see someone else, like maybe not picking up what we're laying down, in terms of different instructions, that they too have their own personal relationship with Krishna. And if they're making even the smallest endeavor in Krishna consciousness, Krishna is working with them accordingly. So we have to remember that Krishna is working with each and every one of us. If we're continuing to make that endeavor, then Krishna will continue to work with us in that endeavor. If we, basically like, Krishna, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm done with you. I'm done with spiritual life. I'm going over there. I'm completely throwing myself into the material world. I'm done. And Krishna will allow for that. But as long as we are continuing in that mental endeavor, in that spiritual endeavor, Krishna will work with us. And that is where faith comes in. That Krishna is always working with us to bring us closer to him. And so even if we may not see our own progress, or maybe we have a friend or family member that's not progressing at the speed we would like them to, or we think they should be progressing, as long as we see that they have in some way made a decision to step even their small toe onto the path of Krishna consciousness, Krishna he'll help them. Unless they say, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm never exploring spiritual life. Krishna, you're no one to me, I'm going over here. And Krishna allows for that too. So we have all of these opportunities to explore our spiritual path with Krishna, as long as we make the endeavor. So I'll stop it here, and I welcome any thoughts or feedback, corrections and such discussion.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the lecture. Looking at the text today and comparing it to the way we live in this country, I knew that it would take somebody with a little more experience to kind of put it all in perspective, and you did a wonderful job doing that. Yes, we have to use what we have, true enough, but to serve Krishna with it. That's one of the keys of being in a country that's fairly opulent compared to other countries, and trying to manage Krishna consciousness in a simple type of way. There are some of our leaders that are saying, Srila Prabhupada says, move to the countryside, to the farms, and live like that. But there are others too. Sometimes when I think about it, I say that, well, some of the Parampara, they were also working. Like, Thakur was a judge, and so those situations there, Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they were in the government, politicians, very highly paid politicians. But still, the mentality was the same for them in terms of them giving their hearts to Krishna. And they serve it in a heartbeat. And whatever problems they have, they see it as, this is my struggle for Krishna because I love Krishna very much. So it comes down to the mind, as you explained in so many ways. Thank you very much for doing that.
And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur too. I mean, even in more recent time, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate. So, I mean, he was a householder. He had many children, and still his endeavor was, his goal was Krishna. And all of the things he was still carrying out in his material activities, because he was just Krishna conscious. And that's the point, is that we maintain that consciousness throughout our day. And that's true Krishna consciousness, that we can be in the material energies and still remember Krishna in everything we're doing and do it for Krishna.
So we shouldn't go overboard in things that we do materially. That is, we should actually give more to Krishna.
Yeah.
There's okay, well, there's quite a few. There's the chat, and then there's also
oh my, okay.
Dear Krishna's hand is up. So Dear Krishna, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for bringing up wonderful points with this class. One thing that very interesting you mentioned about how we should not judge ourselves or also others, but mostly, or at least I feel, even when we are like listening to classes or something, the natural tendency is to start judging others and start justifying our point of view.
Yeah.
And very soon we create an association also where we start making sure that my point of view, see, I thought so, or I said so. So how to not judge others, but maybe it's better to judge ourselves and then start working on that. How to get rid of that tendency, Mataji?
Well, the first thing is awareness. You can't stop something you're not conscious of doing. So if any of us catch ourselves, we're humans are judgmental. This is one of our traits. We judge. However, we can be better at it. And it's practice. And so if we catch ourselves judging or getting in conversations with someone where we say something judgmental or someone says judgmental things about someone else to us, the first thing we can do is just catch it and say, I hear what you're saying, but I choose to see this person, deflect it. And we can say, I hear what you're saying, but I really want to really meditate more on the person's better qualities. I want to really reflect on, this person is doing a lot of service, and, let's change the conversation. And because it's not doing us any good. It just doesn't. It's not good for our consciousness to judge other people and to judge and compare ourselves to other people as well. It's very, 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 very bad for us to do that. So, when we catch ourselves doing it, we've got to just flip it and just say, but that person has so many nice qualities, and I celebrate their good qualities, and I'm going to end the conversation here. Internally, even the thought, I want to end this thought here and just stop. That's it. We just got to cut it off, because there's no benefit to it at all. So, and it's something I work really hard on. Like, I really try so hard to be and even in conversations with others, I really do try so hard to, take a conversation. If someone's saying something, I really try hard to just spin it and be like, okay, this person's a really good devotee. Let's talk. And I just try and take the conversation somewhere else, and redirect. People are easily redirected, especially if we start asking them about themselves again. If they're talking about someone else and they're like gossiping, the best thing we can do is just like, hey, how did your day go? You said you hurt your foot. How are you doing? And we can easily get someone back off of talking about someone else and talking about themselves and their own experience in life, which is better. It's better and better than judging someone else. And when we do it mentally, we're thinking, oh, that person over there, oh, they're so behind, or they're not doing this, and gosh, why are they wearing that? Or why aren't they coming to Mangala Arati? They should be coming. When we start thinking those things, the first thing it's important for us to do is to look at them and say, it's really nice this person's even here coming to the temple. I really pray for them that they find the nourishment they need on this path. And also reminding ourselves, it's so nice this person is here and has found Krishna consciousness. I know that Krishna's working with them. I don't need to do anything. Krishna's already working with them. And so these are things that we can do and like I said, it hurts other people when the horse is out of the barn, right? That hurts other people. But when we're just thinking it internally, it hurts us so deeply, so deeply, because it affects how we interact with people. It affects our own consciousness, because now we're comparing. We're either thinking we're worse than someone or better than someone, which both of those are bad. The humility is good, right? But the constant comparing is not. That's not humility, And so this is really important to work on in our Krishna consciousness, because we will spin our wheels otherwise. So that's such an honest and beautiful question. Thank you so much, dear Krishna.
No, Mataji, thank you so much. I mean, you mentioned really very practical points, how to deal with that with others and also with the self. Sometimes we keep on judging others, in our minds. But thank you so much. It was really beautiful. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. It looks like there was a question in the chat too.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, it's Savanga Damodar Das. And he's saying, Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Ki Jai. Thanks for a very nice class giving us basic idea of spiritual life. Actually, at the start, you recommended a point that I always find difficult to explain, when we are running too much behind material things and getting attached to it, the more important things in life take a back seat. I have heard some weird news of someone selling valuable and essential stuff to buy an iPhone, and people are also afraid that I will, have to give my wants and stuff. How to explain this concept in a way that we don't push people away, but still, they'll understand, to take to higher principles.
Yeah,
So
good
this is how
question.
it's writing.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, so when specifically people that are just and walk in the door, they're walking in the door of Krishna consciousness, and we greet them and we're helping them understand what they're learning. And, when we're covering Shastra like this, that can be very confusing about giving things up, maintaining a simple lifestyle. When people are first walking in the door, the first thing we want to do is just learn more about them. And when people ask, oh, should I be giving everything up? Should I be giving all of my income over to ISKCON? It's like, no. Just be here, taking the prasadam, taking the kirtan, read some Bhagavad Gita, and just as it feels, natural, things should start to fall away organically. But it's not about, and maybe sometimes we do feel that there's things that we're hanging on to that are holding us back. And then we can, clear things out. But I've seen it too. Like there was someone that was coming to a class years ago online, and she came to the class the next day and she's like, I had like 80 pairs of shoes and I sold them. I threw them all out. And I was like, and then the week later, she's like, I regret, what was I thinking? And then she never came back. She just disappeared. And, so, we can't be responsible for the way someone interprets something. But we can help them, at least if we hear them say, I need to throw away, all of my belongings. We can at least be like, no, hold on. Just let's take a breath, give it a couple of weeks. If you're still feeling you need to get rid of these things, maybe do it one item at a time. If you still are feeling, because this is not the message. This is not the aim, is to just, because that's still material. It's an internal endeavor. And yes, getting rid of some of our material attachments is good, but that has to come from the inside out. Unless something's really, really bad, right? I mean, there's certain material things we're like, okay, you're addicted to certain drugs and you're out on the streets. Yeah, I mean, probably want to shift those behaviors pretty soon. But for the everyday average person, let them get their feet wet and really encourage them to kind of just stay put, get your footing, learn about the philosophy, start maybe chanting 1 round a day, see how that feels, because maybe that'll soften the heart and give you more clarity internally. Really encourage the inside out discussion of, everything should be coming internally. That it's not just an external expression of our relationship with God. It has to be an internal one. So I don't know if that if that answers your question, because I know it's hard sometimes. People come in and they interpret things a certain way and they want to act. They get so excited, they get so enthusiastic and so excited. They want to act immediately, and they might shave their head and, change the way they look and do all these things. They get so excited and fired up. Like we always say, they're fired up, right? Nice fired up person coming in. That's okay. But we just want to make sure that the internal is matching the external, because then there could be some discord and problems that could arise down the road. And so this is my thoughts on it anyway, and my observations for the last long time that I've been here. Anyway.
Thank you very much, Ted, for putting things in perspective. The internal is important. Yeah, go ahead, Nancy. I knew you.
Hare Krishna, Vrndavanaesvari, please accept my humble obeisances of the Shishra Prabhupada. Thank you for a nice class. 2-3 points that you were addressing, and I was like, whoa, I didn't think about that, And I think the first point, I'll go back a little bit. I do agree. That's a very good point that I think we have to be more self-aware. I think that is the biggest obstacle I feel personally, my humble opinion in devotional life is that we don't catch ourselves. We are not aware, you know, we are quick to shoot the arrows. We are not quick to actually judge the situation, you know. It's, and what I've also learned in my Krishna consciousness, like we go from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum.
Pendulum.
Yes, we never sit in the middle, you know. And I think the middle part of the pendulum is the awareness, the self-reflection, you know, the self-realization, lack of a better word, quote unquote, you know. We either shoot arrows on one side or we swing and we just don't even say nothing, but we don't, which means we are not really judging the situation. We're not really going internal, you know. Bhaktivedanta Swami used to always tell us the internal dialogue. We gotta go internal. We gotta go internal. So important to be aware, you know. So that's one point. One point that you mentioned, Vrindavan, which I really didn't think about, that we are the minority. Thank you for making us realize that we are a nobody.
But we have such a great opportunity because of that.
Absolutely. You know, that is the key point, because we behave, we act, we speak, we call the shots, as they say, that we are the controllers, but we're really a minority. I never thought of it from that aspect. Thank you so much. Really. I said, thank you for making us think that we are just, you know, second, third, fourth class citizens
On this planet, even.
On this planet, seriously. Yeah, very, very nice point. And I think, and another point that I can't remember the third one, but the second point that you mentioned is, you know, we have to assess. We have, like you said, we have to be aware. We have to assess, you know, how much are we attached and do we want to give it up? And it's an individual basis, you know. And I think we have to ask ourselves, do we want to be attached to this that is going to come into our Krishna consciousness, or let go? It's literally a self-evaluation thing. So I think that's a very good point, that we have to be honest with ourselves. I think that's the word. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be very clear. Do I want to be attached to this, and why? You know, like you said, if someone has a BMW, we're not going to judge you. But at the same time, is it, why do we have it? Is it because of status or this or that? Is because we just need a car to go from point A to point B? So I think it's definitely very much an internal work. It's really an internal, do I need it or do I want it? You know, it's so much of an internal work.
It's all internal. It's so much. It's, you know, Krishna consciousness is, like I said, it is our individual relationship, and no one can do it for us. We can get guidance, we can get perspective, we can get education, but no one can do the work for us.
So true. It's all internal work. And I think that's something that I feel is sometimes we forget. We just think, I just chant, I do service, I do the rules and regulations, and I'm good to go. But actually what we forget is the Vaidhi Bhakti is actually the beginning point of the internal work. And it takes a long time, you know, like you said, the awareness, you know, looking at ourselves before looking at others, you know. Do I do that? Then why am I saying he or she, blah, blah. Yeah, so that's, it's all internal. It's all in, and we forget in a very, because, you know, as Kali Yuga is progressing, I've seen we have more short-term memory because of the age of distraction. That's just where we're at, you know. Yeah, very good points, Prabhu. Thank you for bringing this up. Very nice class. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, Krishna. Anyone else would like to unmute yourself and share a takeaway, ask a question, or share a realization? Please unmute yourself.
I think we had a nice discussion today. So.
Yeah, we had a very nice discussion today. Yeah. If not, then devotees, thank you very much for coming on to hear the lecture. This always helps us to grow and have a better perspective about spiritual life and life in general. So This is the weekend. Have a nice, wonderful Krishna conscious weekend. And thank you, Vrndavanaesvari Mataji, for giving such a very nice class. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Have a nice weekend yourself, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bye, Srila Prabhupada.